A lot of people want to support truth and reconciliation, but they don't. Instead of just giving you solutions of ways that you can participate in Orange Shirt Day or how you can acknowledge National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, first we have to talk about why you may not be taking action the way you want to be. Something has prevented you or people close to you from getting involved. And if those reasons aren't addressed first, then they will continue to prevent you from taking action now and in the future. So first, I'm going to explain 3 themes around truth and reconciliation or Indigenous content in general that create hesitation and need to be addressed or at least recognized in order to have a foundation for beginning any kind of action taking, participation, or learning surrounding Indigenous content. The first theme is that feelings about truth and reconciliation are intense. Truth and reconciliation is a personal subject. Whether you're Indigenous or non-Indigenous, the feelings, thoughts, and experiences that you have about this topic are unique to you, and they're unique to each person. This is why large companies that have a corporate voice have such a hard time creating any communication about truth and reconciliation. The second theme is that the thoughts about truth and reconciliation are drastically diverse, meaning they're different across a community, a group of people, or an organization. As a result of these two, the intense feelings about truth and reconciliation and the very broad differences in the thoughts and perspectives, this makes it extra complicating. The third theme is that the stakes in communicating or acting on Indigenous matters in Canada is so high for companies and brands, and it creates a lot of analysis and careful calculation of the risks, which is often done by people using a Western worldview that is transactional or binary in their thinking. And as a result, it can be extra complicating. So the actions taken toward truth and reconciliation are then less than they otherwise could be because it's intense, the feelings are diverse, and it's overall extremely complicating. Now that you know these 3 big themes around truth and reconciliation, I want to share some actionable ways that you can acknowledge Orange Shirt Day, Every Child Matters, and of course the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and beyond. Truth be told, Orange Shirt Day is a reminder of the atrocities of colonialism in Canada. It's a way for all people to recognize the harm caused by residential schools, the Indian Act, and to demonstrate your commitment to recognizing the resilience of Indigenous communities. In this video, I'm going to share how you can honor this day and moving forward, while also providing some tangible steps to move forward with your reconciliation efforts. Now, because it's so difficult and complicating, I'm going to give you 7 ways that you can honor and acknowledge National Day for Truth and Reconciliation individually or within your organization. The first way that you can honor National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is to increase public understanding of the history and of the present day Indigenous experience. Now, why is this such a great thing to do? Well, history education on Indigenous treaties helps to reduce the amount of ignorance and negative feelings that society can sometimes have towards Indigenous rights that are in place today. Learning history is uncomfortable, but it's the best way to reduce racism and enhance people's understanding of current political, legal, and social government systems that are in place today. Now, some examples of Indigenous experiences that can be shared are things like social media from Indigenous creators or sharing knowledge and resources with groups that you are a part of. The second action that you can take is to honor Indigenous culture, teachings, and ceremonies by taking part in and making space for people to participate. Now, why is this a great thing to do? Well, colonization, the Indian Act, and residential schools were designed to remove Indigenous culture and way of life. We obviously can't rewrite the past and change what happened, but what you can do is create spaces for Indigenous culture to be celebrated today. Now, what does this look like? I have a few examples for you. This could be as simple as taking action yourself to learn or participate, or if you have the power and authority of creating space or time for others in your world to engage in cultural learning, then making that happen and making that not a reality for them. The third way that you can honor National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is to create an opportunity for yourself and others to take part in meaningful conversations about truth and reconciliation. This looks like amplifying Indigenous voices, both past and present. This is such a great thing to do because Indigenous voices and truths were silenced for so long, for decades. Our existence was wiped out from history curriculum in order to cover up the genocide that took place. A great way to reconcile this is to highlight stories of truth and share Indigenous voices from both past and present events. Now, what this looks like, even though Indigenous people and communities are still healing from being silenced and having our existence hidden for generations, we are resilient, and each opportunity for being heard allows us to gain strength. It allows us to build a positive relationship with those who are listening. And it's also validating that every child matters and that every person's voice matters. The fourth action that you can take is to honor everyday impacts of colonialism and remember those who've lost their lives or lost their will to fight systemic oppression. Now, why is this a good thing to do? Truth and reconciliation isn't just behind us. Many of the wrongs still carry over to today for so many people. Systemic oppression of Indigenous people happens every single day, and the sad thing is many people don't know it's happening because it's unconscious. Now, what does honoring everyday impacts of colonialism and systemic oppression look like? First, understanding what systemic oppression is, and taking a second to realize how many systems, policies, government structures, and ways of life that exist today completely undermine the worth of each individual person and communities as a whole. This looks like standing up to tokenism when you see it happening, and standing up to people that are using an Indigenous person for what they can get them rather than appreciating their individuality. There's a lot to cover in the topic of systemic oppression, and it can be complex. But the main thing is learning to listen, speaking up when you see injustice happening before your eyes. Now, the fifth way that you can honor National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is to promote cross-cultural understandings between Indigenous groups with similarities. Now, why is this a great thing to do? Promoting cross-cultural understandings is amazing because one of the biggest reasons it's hard for people to develop a genuine interest in supporting someone else is that they can't relate to them, right? Or if there's no connection. One really great way to connect with Indigenous people and culture is to understand the importance of cross-cultural awareness. You might be wondering what exactly this looks like, and this looks like learning about your own cultural background and identity. Now, there's guaranteed to be many similarities and overlaps that can help you with feeling like truth and reconciliation is meaningful for you, and it can become more effortless. The fifth way that you can help make a change in Indigenous truth and reconciliation is to empathize with gatekeeping as a misunderstood symptom of systemic oppression and cultural survival. Now, empathizing with gatekeeping is a really important thing to do for truth and reconciliation because all people, Indigenous and non-Indigenous, are held back from learning and participating in Indigenous culture. The reason for this is rules, restrictions, and requirements that exist today. These rules and requirements that exist were created from colonization, government, residential schools, and have since now formed the shape of generational trauma. Gatekeeping of Indigenous culture is a misunderstood problem. It's a result of colonial oppression, and it has spread beyond Indigenous people and communities. Now, how this can be overcome or combated is understanding inclusivity. This means having respect and open-mindedness, kindness, and empathy for gatekeeping and for people that are affected by it. Having compassion and empathy towards gatekeepers due to the oppressive systemic problem that created it will allow for healing to take place. My favorite teaching for reminding me of the importance of inclusivity is the medicine wheel. The Indigenous medicine wheel of interconnectivity can help heal symptoms of the pain causing exclusive cultural protectionism. And it gives us a perspective towards empathy and compassion for everyone who is affected by gatekeeping. Now, the seventh way that you can honor National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is to highlight progress made in fostering positive relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous people. Now, why is this a great thing to do? A lot of this content is dark, and sometimes it can get exhausting. The good news stories and highlighting positive milestones, giving recognition will inspire more people to do good work. Now, what this looks like, I've seen a lot of organizations doing great work with Indigenous people and communities. stories, but they are self-critical and focus only on what they aren't doing, when their progressive stories deserve to be shared. This looks like communicating your reconciliation activations and being proud of them because they will inspire others to follow suit. Now, a final bonus way for you to honor National Day for Truth and Reconciliation is to establish a safe space for those affected by residential school, colonialism, or any other form of colonial violence to speak up. This is important because safe spaces for people to speak up appear in very different forms, and people needing safe spaces might need a different form of space depending on their situation and what they have access to. As an individual, this looks like being an active listener, creating opportunities for dialogue, and taking the initiative to create sharing circles whenever possible. Thank you so much for watching this video. I would love to know what your favorite action item was and what you're going to personally do by letting everyone know in the comments below what your favorite way to support Indigenous truth and reconciliation is. Chimigwech, I hope you have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time.